series on parables and understanding the metaphysics of them. And I love parables. I love looking beyond and looking at it slightly differently. Don't you? Mm-hmm. Okay, great. All right. We've done several, and today we want to do the one on the 10 virgins. But first, let me remind you all, a parable is something that is spoken of in a way that is familiar to you, but that brings a profound insight. Okay? So the details of a parable are always common to the audience, so that something profound can be taught. It's an earthly story with a heavenly message. Okay? So this is how Jesus taught the people. This is how he reached them. Because it wasn't all about theology. He was all about love God. And then he taught them through parables how they could themselves change. And he told his disciples, I teach in parables so men can gather at the level of their consciousness. There's all different levels of understanding within parables. So this is why it's fun for us to look at them. All right. In this particular parable, does anybody remember the 10 virgins and the getting the oil for their lights? Okay, we have a few. All right, this parable was told at the very last week of his life on the planet. In the Aquarian, it says it's on Wednesday. We know he goes to Gethsemane on Friday. So he's in the temple, he's teaching, and he's trying to talk to his disciples to give them some greater insights. But then he tells this parable to give them insights as to how to teach the people. So in Matthew, this is Matthew 25, he leads with saying, the kingdom of heaven will be like unto, and then he goes into the parables. In the Aquarian, he does it a little differently. It's very similar in both texts, but I wanted to use the Aquarian for our reading today. So this is chapter 158, and in verse 8 and 9, he says this to his disciples. He's teaching them. You call to mind the words of yesterday about the coming of the Son of Man. Now you shall teach to other men that I have spoken and am speaking to you. Teach them to pray and not to faint, to be prepared at every moment of the day, for when they least expect him, then the Lord will come. So this is the setup before he goes into this particular parable. So, the kingdom of heaven is like unto the Lord will come. Very similar, aren't they? The kingdom of heaven, the Lord will come. Heaven on earth is on earth when we walk with God on earth. Okay? All right. In standard Christian theology, they have taken this parable and let me back up. In early standard Christian theology, early 100, 200, the early years, they took these parables and they told them as if it was when Jesus will return again. Because a lot of the interpretation of his teachings said Jesus is coming back. I'll come back in the way you saw me go. So the early Christians were with bated breath, waiting for him to come back. They wouldn't even marry. Some of them wouldn't marry. Some of them knew it was tomorrow, tomorrow, tomorrow. One of the most difficult things Paul had to deal with when he came on the scene, which was many years after Jesus, was these people saying, where's Jesus? He hasn't come back yet. And then they began to understand the spiritual connotation of his return. Do you understand? So we have inherited the perception that this may refer to Jesus' second coming. That's what we've inherited. But it's from the viewing point of those very early Christians who were thinking he would come back the way he said, in the flesh. Everybody with me? Okay. All right. So the parable starts 58:21. And behold, a marriage was announced, and virgins, 10 of them, were set apart to meet the bridegroom when he came. The virgins clothed themselves in proper garbs and took their lamps and sat in waiting for the watch to say, behold, the bridegroom comes. So, in our consciousness, we're going, okay, yeah. In their day and time, they know exactly what he's talking about. Weddings in that era were 5 to 7 days long. They were done when the harvest was complete in the dark. The days were shorter, dark was longer. They were done when people had the time to go to the villages and go to the towns and spend 7 days partying with somebody. And it was not, nobody had watches. You know, if we're going to get married at a day, it could be at 2 in the morning, it could be at midnight. Who knows when you're getting married? Nobody knows. And there's great processions. You know, there's a procession of the bridegroom and his entourage coming down. There's a procession of the bride going to the wedding, and they're both going to meet at the wedding house. So as he's telling this parable, everybody knows exactly what he's talking about. Well, of course they'd be waiting for the bridegroom, because we never know when he's coming. Do you see? So there were the 5 virgins waiting, and they were all dressed up, ready to go. Now, 5 were wise. They filled their lamps with oil, and 5 were foolish, for they carried empty lamps. And again, in that day and time, everybody would go, yeah, I mean, they didn't have street lights. It wasn't like our day and time. You need a lamp. Everywhere you go, you need a lamp because you cannot see the path in front of you. So they would go, yeah, that's not very smart. And the groom did not come at the expected time. And everybody in the crowd would go, yeah, we know that. Been waited many times for weddings. The virgins got weary and they slept. At midnight came the cry, behold, the bridegroom comes. And the virgins rose, and the wise ones quickly trimmed their lamps and went forth ready to receive the groom. And the foolish ones said, we have no oil, our lamps have burned out. They sought to borrow from the wise, who said, we have no oil to spare. Go to the merchantman and buy and fill your lamps, and then come forth to meet the groom. Now the whole crowd would have gone, oh no, buying oil at midnight? Well, the guy who sells oil is probably invited to the wedding too. Those foolish virgins. Do you see? But while they went to purchase oil, the bridegroom came, and the virgins who were ready, with all their lamps trimmed, went into the feast. And the foolish virgins came to the door, and it was shut. And although they knocked and called aloud, the door did not open. And the master said, I know you not. And in disgrace they went their way. And everyone in the crowd would have gone, oh, I know. When they have a wedding feast, everyone is invited and everybody wants to be there. And once they fill out the wedding house, they shut the door. This is according to the Aramaic line on the book of Matthew. I'm not a scholar on the history. This is what Dr. Errico shares with us about the history of how they lived. And whoever was not there on time sat outside. And they weren't invited in. And there was mighty partying going on. This wasn't just a reception. They partied and partied and partied. So where do you think you would want to be?
At the party.
At the party. Absolutely. Because you dressed for the party. Seriously. So as we hear this parable, what do we think? Those foolish virgins. Yes, and most of us don't really relate to them, do we? No. Not too much. Okay. So, here we go. We have this great procession. We have those poor, foolish virgins not prepared. So what's the moral of our story? If you're going to go to the wedding, take what you're going to need. That's the moral of the story. So we've got that at that level. But as metaphysicians, we want to look a little bit deeper. Okay? Ready? Do you understand the familiar? Mm-hmm. All right. The first thing we want to look at is there were 10 virgins. 10 is the number of God. Did you know that? Jesus tells us in chapter 133, 7 is the number of all things, the number of perfect man. But when you get to 10, and anyone who plays in numerology, that is the high number. That's the number of God in all eternity. Relationships with all eternity. So Jesus knew that, teaches it, what we are dealing with, and how many parables do we have the 10? Not very many. We're dealing with God and man. God expressing through man. 10 virgins. Virgins always represent that beautiful intuition. The female aspect is that intuition. And virgins are the purity. They have not yet linked their energy to create with someone. Their pure essence is ready to go. They have this beautiful light moving through them. They're the feminine, nurturing intuition. We know in every creation, what do we need? We need that beautiful nurturing, and then we need the action step to come together to make it happen. So we have this beautiful essence of intuition ready. Got it? Okay. So, intuition carries the lamp. The lamp is how we shine in the world, how the intuition gets its light out. And the oil represents the fuel, the energy for the intuition. Now, how do we feed our intuition? How do we feed our intuition? We meditate, we pray, we talk to God, we stay connected with God. Intuition is the inner knowing of the divine idea, the inner knowing of what we cannot yet see in matter. We have an inner knowing that something is going to happen. We have an inner knowing because we're connected with that spiritual all-knowing. And if we're not connecting with God, do you know what happens to your intuition? It will atrophy. Your intuition will atrophy if you're not connected to spirit. You all say, I know that. Okay. I will not get off track. The bridegroom. The bridegroom represents action. It's new opportunities. It's a new creation. It's a new way of meeting something in matter. Do you see? It's something new we're going to do. The male energy is always action-oriented. The female is that intuition, action. Now we've got matter moving when the two come together. So, when you are filled with God's presence and love, you will be able to respond when it's your turn to create and when opportunities arise. Can you breathe that in? When you are filled with God's presence and love, your intuition is online. Then when opportunity comes, you are ready to respond. You're ready to embrace it. You're ready to go to the party. So simple, isn't it? It's just so simple. Yet, let's just pause for a moment and let's talk about meditation. How often when we go to a meditation are we really saying, God, I need to know something, an answer to a question perhaps. I need a problem fixed. Do you understand? I need to tell you to tell me how I fix what I've created. Do you understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. How many of us wait until something's broken before we turn to God? I won't ask for you to put your hands in the air. But if you... but the entire Moss family just did.
Embracing their imperfection.
But can you see that if we open to connect with Creator daily, God, our Father, our Mother, meditate, pray, if we open to connect, we are in a different space than when we open to fix or repair. I meditated for about 1.5 years, probably. I've meditated for a long time. I mean, one morning, I told you recently, one morning we had to leave very early. I got up, I hit the road running, and I was grumpy, and I flew at him, Patrick, and I said, this is how I am when I don't meditate. And he goes, uh-oh. So, but for 1.5 years, I would ask God, I'd meditate, my prayer question would be, God, my Father, my Mother, what is my next step? What is my next step? And I got the same answer every day for 1.5 years. And it was breathe. Do you know how frustrated I was? Breathe. I want something to do. I want to get going here. Breathe. Okay. Breathe. Okay, now what's my next step? And I was being taught, just come to me and be filled. Just come to me and be filled. You don't have to do anything. Just receive. And then, after about 1.5 years, I'd get, what's my next step? I'd get a little something to do. Oh, I was so happy. Something to do. Something else to do. And then I quit asking what my next step was. So I was still working on what I had to do. You see? Filling ourselves up is so important. And recently, the last couple of years, I've asked what my next step is. And you know what my answer has been? It's not your time. It's not your time yet. It's not your time. come on, God, I want it to be my time. It's not your time. Pat on the head. Sweet little thing. So we get filled. We get guidance. But what we do is we maintain this beautiful energy that enables us to do what? Yeah, and respond. Now we're able to hear our intuition and we're able to respond to what we see. And I'm telling you this, asking for divine intervention with my creations isn't a bad prayer. God, I ask for divine intervention for everything I've created. God, I ask for grace to move through my karma. Those are good prayers. They are great prayers, and I pray them. I ask for that. But let that not be your only prayer. Let it not just be for divine intervention. Let it be for beautiful inspiration. Let it be for knowing and feeling God. Did you feel when Rich was singing? I see the detail of this moment and the greatness of the plan in the hollow of his hand. I feel that through every cell of my being, every time I hear those words. Everything is in God consciousness, if we can turn and allow it to be. And I don't want to step out of that because I'm not getting an action step. I want to be in it. So, meditation keeps us prayed up. And this is an interesting scenario idea that I ran into 20 years ago. Someone used the phrase being prayed up. Have you heard it before? Staying prayed up with God? I was in a Sunday service and the minister was talking about somebody that was in their association and there was high drama occurring and they said, oh, high drama, and the person said to them, that's okay, I'm prayed up. I went, yeah, man, I want to stay prayed up. I'm on a first name basis with God. I don't have any problem. If I'm checking out in this moment, I'm good to go. So I've made that my mantra to live by. I do not want to not be prayed up, and I don't want to not be prayed up with people either. You'll hear me often tell people, oh, I love you, give you a hug and something, and I don't know what you're thinking, but I know that if that's the last moment that I see you in your lifetime, you will know how I feel about you. I'm not going to withhold that. I want to stay prayed up with everybody. I don't want there to be one thought of regret, shoulda, coulda, woulda. If I have a problem, I'll either heal it within me or speak it out loud to the issue. I don't want to not be completely prayed up with my life. And that comes with being filled up. Being filled up. If I can be filled up with God, I can be filled up in my world. Do you understand? So, if my tank is filled with God, I can stay filled up with people. I can stay prayed up with everybody. Do you see the difference in living? You forgive quickly. You apologize quickly. You move on quickly. And you're honest. It's very powerful, for me, space. So, now, let's go back to our other 5. Everybody feeling good right now?
Yes.
Okay. We want to be how many want to be the 5 who kept enough filling so they had light in their lamps? We have a few. Does anybody want to be the 5 who didn't have enough in their lamp?
No.
Well, we have one. Okay.
I want to be the one, the Costco bottle.
I love that. Costco. Okay. All right. When you are filled up with God's love, this is so important because you do this all the time. When I am so full of God's love and I see someone next to me who is not and who is hurting, what's the first thing you want to do?
Comfort.
No, you don't comfort. You go, let me give you some of my God love. You want to fill them up with everything you have. You want to pour your energy into them. You don't stop at comforting. You want to, do you need light? Of course. Let's see, we can negotiate. Of course you can have some of my light. The minute you make someone else's light your spiritual responsibility, you have diminished yours. You are now on their level of consciousness. You went from being full and fed to going, oh, I am now responsible for your spirituality. Let me get as small as you are, stand by you, and take as much as you want. Now, who's not going to have light? Both of you. The reality is the light that you give them, they cannot hold. Because they have not grown their bucket large enough to hold that light. You cannot do the spiritual work of another. You can pray for each other. Please pray for one another. Love each other. Pray for divine intervention. Pray for healing. Pray for everything for our brothers and sisters. But you cannot give them their spiritual truth. They have to find that. They have to grow that within themselves. And how many churches have stepped up, and I'm not saying today, but in our history, and said, you sweet little babies out there, I will take responsibility for your spiritual truth. You just show up and do what I tell you.
Still have a say.
Well, but in the beginning, spiritual responsibility was given to the church entities, no matter what faith. And we can't do that. You can't do that for anyone. It diminishes you. Do I need to say that again? Is everybody hearing me? When you are shining your light, you can encourage others. And how many times do you say, you should read this book? Great. You don't have to buy it for them unless they ask. You should read this book. And if they don't read the book, you should say, that's great. You didn't read the book. Awesome. No big deal. You're going to enjoy where you are. Those 5 who were not prepared, they were not full, their intuition was not ready. Their first reaction was to, hey man, can you spot me here? And isn't that our first reaction as humans? And it's like, oh really, yeah, you can't, okay, great. They missed that opportunity to go into that feast. But maybe because they had to go and buy it at the last minute, maybe that very act of taking responsibility put them on a new path. Maybe the next feast, they'll be with their Costco container, like Holly said, ready to rock. Maybe they'll be so filled that they don't want to miss this opportunity. We don't know. We cannot judge. We only know that eventually everybody returns to their spirit. Everybody does. Okay, cannot take on the responsibility of everybody else's spiritual teaching. Everybody hear that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Fueling your intuition so you can stay ready when new action comes is one aspect. Everybody got that level? Okay, now let's take it just one more step further. I say this a lot. I do not know why. It is on my heart a lot. When Jesus is saying, your Lord, you do not know when your Lord will meet you. He's not saying when I'm going to meet you. He's saying when your Lord will meet you. Perhaps this is the moment when your higher self comes into that quickening with your personality. And you have that moment of realization. We hear people say, we're going to take someone to come to Jesus meeting. Come to Jesus meeting always infers that somebody's probably been not doing what they need to be doing. And we're going to have a little talk with them, and the reality of a deeper truth that will correct their behavior shall be shared. That's what happens when your higher self comes talks to you too. Now, you can shift or not. How many of you have had those epiphanies and still gone back and done the same thing? Still your choice. Still your choice. But those moments of epiphany, when you really see, oh, I've been doing what? Oh, I could be doing this. Okay, great. Those moments of epiphany are so important. Even if you go and buy oil, even if you do something different, it will shift your life. And this is what I say all the time, that I don't know why. Do you know the big day when your Lord will come? When you die. When you die and you cross over and you see your higher self and they go, yeah, remember when? You go, do. Remember when? Oh, yeah, I do. And you see the beauty of this heaven. This is so beautiful. Why would I not want to stay connected with you guys? Why would I not want you in my, of course I want you in my life. Of course I want to be with you. What? And your higher self will say to you, get back down there and buy the darn oil this time. Get back down and stay connected this time. Get back down and fill yourself up so when I send the bridegroom, you can party. You can have heaven on earth. You can experience all that God love in matter. Now, do you want that kind of come to Jesus meeting? Or do you want one here now? Even us, if we can just shift our idea as I talk and ask and pray and fill myself up with the presence of God, I am filling myself up with the presence of heaven. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't care how you pray. I don't think Jesus cared how you pray. I don't care how you meditate. I don't care if you chant. I don't care if you meditate on your head. If your heart is opening to God and you are feeling fulfilled, you are in your absolute perfect method. Do you understand? That's you and God. But fill yourself up. And then when that bridegroom comes dancing, now how does our bridegroom look? It's not going to be a procession coming down the way. It might be someone knocking on our door saying, hey, you want to try this? Hey, how about this? Hey. And then you check your intuition because it's all filled up. Yeah, I might like to try that. Or no, I'm waiting for the next bridegroom. You're not mine. The next one is. Because you're clear, you're centered. And the parable ends in a party. I came that you might have joy. I came that you might have life. I came that you might be awake and aware. This is not a mistake. This earth is not a mistake. How deeply do we love each other? I mean, how deeply do we love each other? Where else do you think we can experience loving one another this deeply in spite of all of our issues? You know, in spite of all the things that keep us separate. In spite of you do that and you do that and they do not match, but the love can still bind and blend. We're in a blessed home right now, a blessed place, this planet, for us to learn. So, the 10 virgins. Stay connected with Spirit. Be ready to take a new step. Don't take on the responsibility of another spiritual growth. And you will be guided to your party, to that which blesses and fulfills and feeds you. Take a breath. Let's go within. God, we ask that your love fill this room. And we feel all of the beautiful angelic beings and the forces of love that just bathe this planet. I ask that they bathe this group this morning. Bathe all who hear these words. And lift us up into that welcoming into the spiritual world. The welcome of pure acceptance and love. And I would ask that each of you now just feel your heart. Feel this beautiful space all around you. And feel an angel welcoming you. As you realize you are a child of God. And they acknowledge you as precious child of God. And as you take their hand, just let your mind visualize all the things in your world, all the patterns in your world that you do without including your guidance. Just let an energy awareness see energy, see patterns, see boxes, see whatever you see. Areas of your life where you don't even consider God as a part of that. Oh. Am I a child of God? Perhaps you could breathe now. Take a breath and breathe your love into those areas. I choose to let the beautiful light that I feel now move into those areas so that God can be a part of all of my world. And as you do that, do you notice you are not depleted? Do you notice you're not drained? Nothing left you. Feel that beautiful love of God and ask that God's love begin to fill you to overflowing. Coming through the top of your head, through the body, through the feet, through your arms. The beautiful love of God for you. And as it does, I want you to say in your heart, I am. I am. I am. Father, Mother God, we know that we are held in the hollow of your hand. And we want to feel this love in every breath and every moment. Melt the barriers. Dissolve the veils. Let us know without a doubt that all good things you desire for us as we desire them. Let us know good can be ours in every moment. Because you are good. As you breathe, let the energy move down your spine. Physically into the body, down the spine, out the energy field, and feel a great peace. And you choose. Do you want to bring this energy back? Your spiritual nature. Take a breath. If you choose, bring that energy back into your physical body. And notice as you come back into the awareness of your chair, notice how you feel, how your core feels, how your spine feels. I fill myself with God light, and I am ready for my next adventure. Send your love to God. Take a deep breath. Send your love into the room now to everyone present. Let there be peace. There is only love. There is only God. Feel it deep in your heart. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes. Do you feel expanded?
Yeah. I'm crying.